Hi, welcome to my first online drawing video that wasn't streamed. Today I'm going to be inking this sketch card of a character from Trinity Blood. As you can see, my original sketch lines are a bit crazy. Only in my bigger pictures do I tend to go for really fine line art before I start inking, but you know, sketch cards are one of those things that I can play around a bit and you know, I feel safe inking without making too many mistakes. Besides, if I do, it's only like an hour to draw another one. I've only ever had one case where I've horrendously screwed up a sketch card that I've had to start from the beginning, so let's hope that doesn't happen today. As you may have noticed by now, I am left-handed. I apologise that my hand is actually covering up quite a bit of inking during this video, but you know, it's just one of those things. I actually had my camera tripod set up behind my hand and I actually flipped the video up in software, so this was recorded upside down. I'm using a Sakura Pigma Micron pen in a 01, a Copic Multiliner in a 0.05 and a Copic Multiliner SP in a 0.03. The reason I have the Sakura in the bigger size is because I haven't really had a chance to buy any bigger Copic Multiliners yet, but out of the two pens that is definitely the one I prefer. I also love how Copic Multiliners come in quite a few different colours. I have experimented before using different colour pens to ink, but today I'll just be using black. I also know quite a few people like using the brush pens. The reason I don't use them is that I haven't yet found a brush pen that's got a fine tip that I like. I tend to be a bit finicky with my sketch cards. I love putting in a lot of extra detail that probably doesn't need to be there, but you know, I want each one to be special. And I just find that brush pens are a bit too chunky for what I want. But I have seen people produce some great things with brush pens. I'm not condemning them at all, I'm just saying that they're not my personal preference. This sketch card's going to take me a little longer to ink than my usual sketch cards do. I'm really trying to get the detail in her hair here, and her costume is actually quite detailed as well. This is my third time drawing a sketch card of this character, so you'd think I have it down by now, but her gloves are a bit finicky and I don't want to mess up the beading on her costume because it's actually quite interesting. I haven't actually seen any Trinity Blood before, so I'm not familiar with the character. I also have no idea how to pronounce her name, but I think her costume is really interesting, and from what I've seen, she definitely has a few different interesting looks. Most people tend to draw with bandages, but the commissioner requested that I didn't do that this time, so I've tried to mix it up a bit and put her in some different scenes. This time I've gone for a gothic archway type thing. I'm really interested in a lot of old style architecture, and really I'll give any excuse to draw a gothic type building and a column. That stuff sort of fascinates me. Plus, I think it sort of adds to the dark, mysterious look I'm going to go for with this sketch card. Later on, I'm going to be adding quite a few dark shadows to the background with a thicker inking pen, and I also have a video of me colouring this as well, and you'll see that I add lots of greys and blues to sort of add to that as well. I've talked a bit about the inking pens and my working method, but I'm going to talk a bit about the paper that I'm using to draw on. It's actually my own printed paper that I had printed by a company called Versicolor Productions. Before I had cards printed there, I did actually cut cards myself by hand, just the Canson Bristol board I was using for that. I stopped cutting my own cards by hand because it was really hard to get every single one the exact same size. Even if I used a guillotine, I found I had, you know, one crooked card in a bunch. So I caved and ordered 100 cards from a crew called Versicolor Productions. They were really helpful through every process of this. I did all the cards up myself in Photoshop, but they gave me a template to download and they told me what sort of clipping to expect, so none of my card details were cut off in production. 100 cards was only $49 US plus shipping, which is pretty good, and they were here in a week and a half. I've got a preview of the card I actually had printed, just up there. As you see, the one side I'm drawing on is blank. I could choose to have a watermark, but you know, I don't want something getting in the way of the picture, so that side is completely blank. But on the other side has my website address, just the information that it's a one-of-a-kind artist card, and a little drawing I put in there. As you can see, I've used a ruler for the column lines. I really try and use a ruler wherever I can. It just looks a bit nicer than just trying to draw a straight line by hand. especially when I don't have the steadiest hands in the world and I'd prefer to use a ruler and know that I'm going to get it right the first time than try and fix up a mistake later. When it comes to inking, you can see that I prefer to get all my lines down first. Usually I try not to build up line width until I've erased all my pencil lines and can have a look what my just thin lines look like on the page. I don't just want to add a thick line somewhere and then discover later on, as I'm working on more lines, that it looks out of place. Usually when going back over my lines, I start with the figure outline just to make them pop out from the background. Then I can build up more shadows, say underneath the character's neck or under their arms, or see where shadows are being cast on the background. You can see that right now I'm using the thicker micron pen. I really try and start with the smallest pen I can and then build it up as I go along. It may seem like a really finicky way of inking, unlike brush pens where you can just sort of do the line widths as you go, but I enjoy inking this way, and just seeing the picture slowly emerging out of the page is really quite fun. I think the main reason I like drawing sketch cards is because they're so small and I can draw so many a day. It really gives me the freedom to play around with lots of different scenes and ideas, and say, you know, I can draw a sketch card and it'll only take me an hour or so and I can move on to the next one without, you know, drawing this huge picture that takes me days and gets me sick of it. I swear I've also drawn more Marvel characters in the last month than I have in the last few years. It's just a shame that DC Comics aren't really doing more sketch cards. I don't think I've seen a set for them in quite a while. Marvel just seem to be the ones on top of the sketch cards right now, which is a bit of a shame, but you know, I can always get commissioned to do those for fun. I haven't actually been involved on an official Marvel set yet either, but hopefully that's one day soon, fingers crossed. My two official sets that are coming out by the end of the year is the Hack Slash set coming out from Fifinity and the Treasure Chest and Booty coming out from Axebone Productions. I also did a few sketch cards for the Pups Master set, although I have no idea when the release date of that is, so stay tuned. I'm sure you'll know when I know. Not bad considering I only started getting into sketch cards professionally at the end of June. Before that I really had no idea what I was doing, but I joined the Scoundrel sketch card forums. I'll include a link here. Everyone there was really helpful and helped get me gigs, and I've actually learned a lot since I've been there, so I really recommend, if you can, to check those guys out. And looks like my card is done. Here it is in all its glory. Only took me 25 minutes to ink, and now I'm going to start colouring it.